something going on with the calendar. Okay. Oops, I didn't want to show you this yet. Okay, so let's start off with our favorite activity of the poll question. All right. Hopefully you guys can see that. So according to the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, in 2020, law enforcement agencies in the United States made an estimated 424,300 arrests of persons under age 18. Which crime accounted for the highest number of juvenile arrests? Was it aggravated assault? Was it disorderly conduct? Was it simple assault? Or was it property crimes? Vote now. That's it. It is actually property crimes. You are absolutely correct. 24 of you. It is actually property crimes. Okay, now I want to show you this. So this was from 2020. Again, interested, Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, 424,300 arrests. This was actually a decrease from 71% decrease from just what, 10 years ago, 9 years ago, from 2020. Under 1,000, or 930 to be exact, for murder and non-negligent manslaughter. So again, if you look at just in the percentage of overall violent crime, juveniles do not commit a very large number or percentage-wise prevalence of murder and non-negligent manslaughter. So that's always a good thing. But we come down all the way down here to property crime index, 74,680 young people were arrested. And again, that includes burglary, larceny, theft, shoplifting, motor vehicle theft, and arson. I wish they would maybe break it down a little bit more. I like, especially the arson. I'd like to see, oh, there it is, arson, 1,200, okay. So this is a congregate number, it looks like, for property crime index. And they also have one for violent crimes as well, too. Okay. Now, when you guys look at some of these stats, you're going to notice, not in all, but in many of them, the issue of rape, and there's a sexual assault in here somewhere as well, too, I noticed. In 2012, the FBI modified the definition of rape. And so since 2013, they don't necessarily keep up-to-date or accurate information because the definition changed somewhat, so they don't actually report the number of rapes by juveniles. So, but it had really to do just with the whole change of the definition of rape that the FBI changed back in 2012. So again, if you're interested, if you're looking at some or need some statistics for your papers, for your topics, you get a lot of good information from the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. Okay? All right. I do want to also let you know that I'm going to be showing you a couple of videos today. They are graphic, disturbing. So I'm just putting a heads up. And if you need to put it on mute or something, or whatever you need to do, but they're pretty disturbing. So just giving you guys a heads up. Okay. All right. Let's get into it. Police and juvenile crime. You know, when we talk about police officers in general, police training specifically, for those of you that want to be police officers, law enforcement, or maybe you are already, one of the things that is really relevant here as we talk about this topic is that, you know, the amount of training that police officers get, especially during the academy, on juvenile specific types of crimes and behaviors, right? And it's not very much. And surprisingly, it's not very much. Police don't really get a lot of training in juvenile matters. And I would say the same thing when I mean, I think maybe I have, when it comes to mental health training. They don't get a lot in the police academy, right? So when officers get into the possibility of maybe taking on a different role within the department, working with kids, a lot of them really just don't want to, because it's very, very different working with kids than it is with adults. They have a lot more rights and protections. And again, a lot of officers aren't trained in that light. So, you know, and actually I have a couple of slides. We're going to talk a lot about having police officers on school campuses. And some officers really thrive in that position. They really like it. And others, they don't. They don't like being around that environment because they have so many rules that they have to abide by that are very different than working with adults. We'll get into a little bit of that as well too. So, you know, for kids, for juveniles, the police role is considered, I think, especially important because if you think about it, maybe even yourselves, a young person's views and their attitudes towards law enforcement is really shaped by their very first encounter with a police officer. If that's a negative encounter, then that's pretty, well, for a lot of young people, that's pretty much the foundation of their attitudes and the views of police officers based on their initial contact. So if it's negative, you know, and then highlighted with that is the feedback they get from what's going on inside their home. So if their parents, for example, as an example, have a very negative view of law enforcement, don't trust the cops, don't talk to the cops aren't good, and so that kind of compounds these kids, their views and their attitudes, especially if they themselves have had a very negative encounter with the police. So the first encounter is very important, just because I think it shapes these kids' views and their attitudes towards law enforcement, you know, moving forward. So juvenile offenders are involved in a disproportionately large number of crimes relative to their percentage of the population. I just gave you some numbers from 2020. So I think that in and of itself, they present a special challenge for law enforcement. Right? So within the realm of law enforcement and their interactions with kids, the police role with juveniles is really expanded because the police handle many non-criminal matters. And when I say non-criminal matters, I'm referring to specifically status offenses. Okay? Police officers handle a lot of these non-criminal matters referred to as status offenses. Running away, curfew violation, truancy, those kind of things. Right? And I think we talked about status offenses already. Okay? Now I want to highlight this because people often get this confused. Status offenses are not crimes. They're not crimes. You cannot get arrested for running away. You can get detained, but you cannot get arrested. You can't get fingerprinted, photographed, all that stuff. Okay. And maybe to some extent, that's why police don't generally, I hate to generalize, don't always take these runaway cases very seriously, especially if they're repeat offenders, right? Classic example. I think all of you have heard, I hope you've heard about this case involving the singer David and this girl, this little, I think 13 years old, 14 years old, girl who they found dead in his car. She was from Riverside County. She was a habitual runaway. The last time her family had any contact with her was in 2024. She ran away. They reported her as a runaway. But in that same year, she had run away like 3 or 4 other times. So do you think that was relevant? And maybe the police not maybe taking it seriously, really actively looking for her? I don't know. It'd be interesting really kind of to dig into that. But these non-criminal matters don't always take the police don't always give them the attention that they require. And then unfortunately in some cases tragedy happens where a young person gets killed, like in the case of this young girl. Her last name is Hernandez, Rivas Hernandez. I forgot her first name. Okay, but those are the non-criminal matters I'm talking about as well too. Okay, and the police also, of course, handle the non-delinquent juvenile matters like neglect, abuse, those kind of things. So that's stuff that's usually happening in the house. Okay. So your first video about the initial contact with a police officer. I have to warn you again that this is a very, very graphic video. Okay, where is it? Okay, so let me set this up for you real quick. Some of you have seen this video, possibly seen this video. This shows a video of a young person. He's 18 or 19 years old, name's Devon, running away from the police after they make contact with him, and they shoot and kill him. Okay. What leads up to this is someone calls 911, says, "Hey, I just got robbed by these 2 black kids, and they took my wallet, they took my money, blah blah blah, and one of them had a gun." And they give him the description, and okay, so forth and so forth. Okay, so now the police make contact with these 2 young people. The volume's a little low on this. That's not my volume, that's the police.
Hey guys, can I talk to you a sec? What's going on today? Weird. Got a contact. Third. We got to report it. 2 people. That's it. Wait. Second me. Hands up! Hands up! Hands up! Get your hands up! Get your hands up! Get your hands up! Get down on the ground! Get down on the ground! We need a med kit. We need a med kit. Medical kit. Alright, let's check it.
All night.
Clear for medical. We're on the south side of Adams. Cruise to the cruise. Just been in the road. He's got a fucking gun.
Yeah.
Take his pants. Take the shorts off. He's got a gun in his pants.
I can't get to it.
Hold on. Cutting the pants off.
Stay with me, brother. Where'd the other one go?
We got him.
Oh, you got it?
Who's with him? Who's... Gonzo, stay with him. Go, stay with him.
Hello, buddy.
This is from another angle, from another officer's camera.
Hands up! Put your hands! Put your hands up! Put your hands up! Get your hands up! Get down to the ground! Get down to the ground!
Yo, Cuff, we need a med kit. We need a med kit. He's got some.
Had anyone seen this video before, this incident?
No.
Any thoughts on what happened? The young man passed away, but any thoughts on the shooting or?
I just feel like it's such a black and white situation because they need to go up to them with precaution because somebody said they had a weapon. But then again, he ran, I don't know, I guess mixed feelings because I wish cops, I don't know what I'm trying to say, just mixed feelings, I guess.
It's hard to watch. It's hard to watch. It really is.
Yeah, it's hard to watch.
Yeah.
To me, the shooting didn't seem reasonable because they were running away and there was like no imminent threat towards the cops as they were running away. So it just didn't seem reasonable at all for them to even draw their firearm.
Generally speaking, once someone's running away from you, they no longer pose a threat. I mean, so that's the courts have ruled, right? So when we talk about justifiable shootings, like if I'm a homeowner and somebody breaks into my house, but then they see me, they turn around, they're trying to exit the home and shooting them in the back, I would be held criminally liable because they're no longer a threat, right? So I really didn't have a shoot them. However, the fact that he had a gun on his person, does that change then the dynamics of the shooting? Right.
I guess that's where I'm at. I don't think that they should have shot him, but then again, how do they not know, even though he's running away, he's not going to pull out that gun, turn around and shoot them. Not
right.
saying that him getting shot was justifiable. I'm talking in a legal sense. Like, I'm just saying that you don't know, I guess, and from other cases, suspects have run away, took out their weapon, and shot at police. So I guess, I don't know, you never know, I guess.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, we weren't there, but the best that we have is just the camera angles, and I'm glad that they showed from different angles as well too, because I think you try to get as many perspectives as you can. Ingrid said, I'm sorry, Beatrice, the fact that he had a gun played a role. I think absolutely it did. Ingrid said there was less lethal options. As they're running away, I think it would be hard to employ less lethal options. Maybe if they were standing still when they made the initial contact, and then if he was acting more aggressive, then possibly I think maybe the taser or something like that would have been more appropriate. Ingrid said they did not confirm that he had a gun until after shooting him. That's true. The radio call, though, and again, I want to go back, and I didn't play that for you, but if you, I mean, the links in your slide, so if you want to take a look at the whole thing, I just didn't have enough time. There's a 12-minute buildup to the part that you saw. So the first 12 minutes is the 911 call, the dispatcher talking to the caller, then talking to the police officers. So there was a confirmation that the person that committed the crime, the robbery, had a gun. And then they gave a description. The caller did say that the guy's first name was Devon, but no last name. She just said it was Devon. And so when the officer says, "What's your name?" and he says Devon, so I think they were making that connection. So again, I'm not in any way defending anybody in this. I'm just pinpointing things out that I'm aware of in this case. Okay. As I mentioned, he did pass away. Obviously, there was an inquiry in this, and the officers were exonerated and said there was a justifiable. Sure. But it's tough to see. It's bad to see. It really is. Most police departments, especially large police departments, LAPD, the sheriffs, NYPD, the very large departments, they have a special police unit, or they call them juvenile bureaus, for handling the juvenile cases, and that's all they do. They don't work on any other cases except cases that involve juvenile things that are going on. Okay? So obviously their duties are going to be very different than a regular patrol officer's duties in the sense that they'll take the missing children's reports, they'll look at runaway cases, they'll investigate juvenile crimes, those kind of things. They'll talk to parents in school. I mean, they do all that stuff, right? So then it takes away from the patrol officers, and they don't have to really necessarily concentrate on those things. Okay, but again, that's not every police department. That's just the very large police departments that we have, the urban police departments, if you will. Okay. Most young people view the police officer that's on a regular patrol, just driving around town kind of thing, not necessarily as a deterrent, but in some cases, as a challenge, especially in some of the urban settings, right? Here are some of the problems that police generally find, especially when they're dealing with kids. Number one, and this is true because I kind of dealt with this a lot too. Juveniles are less predictable than adults. Juveniles are less predictable than adults. Number two, juveniles also tend to exhibit less respect for the authority of police officers. And then I'm going to go back to my statement that I made earlier, that first police encounter really shapes the attitudes and the views of these young people. So I especially connect that with number two, or B. They at times exhibit less respect for the authority of officers. Number three, because kids, generally they're immature. It's really the immaturity of young children, especially children, juveniles. Because they're so immature, it also means that they are more susceptible to the dares of their peers. Meaning that the peer network can really egg on this young kid into committing some really stupid stuff. Like challenging the police, as an example. And then number four, which is what we talked about in class already, juveniles often engage in delinquent behavior when they are in the company of their peers. The clustering effect. Not going to end well.
Sir, can I ask a question?
Go ahead, please. Always
So
ask a question.
So then why would schools have police officers there in the first place?
Say it again.
So why would schools have police officers there in the first place if they know they can stop them?
Okay. And that's the question that we're going to get into next.
Okay.
Should police be in schools, and why are they in schools? Because that is a good question.
People are being run over by the cost of living. Trump is assuming that we Californians are too soft and too weak to fight back. Don't mess with California.
Again, shared that violent encounter happened at a juvenile facility 3 years ago. The supervising probation officer was never disciplined for allegedly using excessive force on a minor. That is until now. That officer is now facing criminal charges. A teenager surrounded by probation officers is told to stop resisting. They use force on the 17-year-old, who then screams out for his mom. The disturbing encounter happened at Malibu's Camp Kilpatrick in October of 2020. The video obtained by the LA Times shows 5 officers pile on the minor, shove him face down onto a bed. It appears he is subdued, then a supervisor grabs the teen's legs and forces them towards his head.
This was a brutal assault on a child by a person entrusted with his care while he was in custody of the probation department.
On Monday, LA District Attorney George Gascon announced he is criminally charging supervising probation officer Oscar Cross with 1 felony count of excessive force.
Even after the minor was handcuffed, Cross continued to hold the minor's leg backward for several more seconds. The youth can be heard continuing to scream and cry in pain.
The teen, now an adult, did not suffer any serious injuries, but officials say the video reflects the reforms needed to hold those who abuse their power accountable.
Supervisor Cross's actions should have resulted in an immediate dismissal, not a slap on the wrist, not a covering up of this abusive behavior.
It's unclear if Deputy Cross is still employed. LA County Supervisor Lindsay Horvath says she'll introduce a motion tomorrow to force changes in the juvenile justice system.
We will not tolerate harm, and we...
So, I'm very familiar with that case because it happened while I was employed there with the department. I wasn't employed at Kilpatrick, but I know the supervisor. So initially what happened was what you saw in the video there, obviously, that did happen, obviously, it's on the video. And so it came to the attention of the chief probation officer. The chief probation officer made a decision that he was going to suspend the supervisor and then pretty much just reprimand. And that was it. They did their investigation. That was it. And so it was pretty much done with at that point. And then the LA Times got a hold of it, became aware of it, and then published it. And then the Board of Supervisors and the district attorney got involved. And so as a result of all of this now new spotlight on the case, the chief probation officer was fired, and they tried to fire the supervisor. He didn't lose his job, but he had to get an attorney. Charges were brought up against him. I believe the charges were eventually dropped. And then, I mean, it was just a big... Personally speaking, I don't mean to downplay it, though. I think it was just a little dog and pony show that the county had to go through to show that they were serious about this kind of stuff. But ultimately, nothing really ended up happening. It just took up a lot of time and money for this case. So, but example of excessive force sometimes that's used on these young people, especially within our system, but just law enforcement in general when they come in contact with these kids, especially the mob of kids that happens sometimes. It happens quite often. It really happens quite often. There's some statistical information about arrest and police contacts and use of force. If you're interested, take a look at it. Use it if you want for statistical purposes if you want. Okay, now, school police. So to be, in full transparency, the real good-looking young man in the blue scarf, that's my nephew, Aaron. He is a school police officer, or he was actually, out in Texas. Kerrville, Texas. I don't know, something like that. Absolutely did not like it because of, again, as I mentioned, a lot of the rules and the regulations. He was telling me that in order to arrest a kid and take him to juvenile hall, he needs to get a judge's permission to do that. I mean, it's just very, very burdensome. But that was his rotation, and he did it. And that was it. So, to answer the question, why do we have cops on school campus? Great question. For this, we definitely have to go back to Columbine, which I will talk about when we talk about school shooters. But for a quick answer, It was the school shooting in Columbine in 1999, April. We're actually approaching 35. I don't know. Do the math. Is it 35 years? 25 years? Something like that. But anyway, the anniversary is next month in April of the Columbine shooting. And since then, cops have been on school. The cops were on school campus prior to Columbine. Matter of fact, Columbine had a school officer assigned to it. He was just off campus at the time of the shooting. So I think we've had cops on campus for many, many years. But obviously it increased substantially after Columbine. Okay. So here's the idea behind this, or the theory. And I'm going to be as quick as I can as possible. Okay. 27 years. Thank you. I'm glad we have math majors in class. So, in theory, it's good to have police officers on campus because it averts crime and delinquency and stuff that's happening at school. Okay. So then the follow-up question to that is, should they be in uniform or should they be in plain clothes? Because if we want them in uniform, then, obviously they're going to stick out, right? But then it's also going to create some fear, hesitation, potentially with kids. And if they're just in regular street clothes, then they blend in, they look like teachers. So there's more of an opportunity for relationships to be built, all this other stuff. And so initially when we started having school police officers on campus, they were not in uniform. We wanted them out of uniform so they can blend in and just, so it not to be a barrier in creating relationships with students. And then there was an incident at a middle school. I think it was in California. It could have been Colorado. I don't remember, but a long time ago, where a student brought a knife to campus and ended up attacking a couple of students in front of the school police officer who was not in uniform. And so then we thought about this again, and we thought, if that kid had seen the school police officer in uniform, would he have used the knife on the students? And we thought, well, probably not, right? If he saw a cop there, why would he take out the knife and stab some students? So we reversed course, and now police officers are now in uniform on campus as a form of deterrent and identification purposes. Okay, so that's where we are right now. School police officers have to be in uniform on campus. Got it? Okay. So those of you that went to a high school in LA Unified School District, and if you did, put a one on in the chat box. I know that you guys went to a high school in the LA Unified School District. They had school police had a very large presence on LA Unified School campuses for many, 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 many years. I worked with them very closely when I was a supervisor, and I had the school crime suppression unit. We worked really closely with school police. LAPD had a lot of school police. Not anymore. They changed their policy. This was in 2020. They now, LA Unified School, the LA Unified School Police Department was the fourth largest police department in the county, behind LAPD, the sheriffs, and I think Long Beach. And then it came LA Unified. Not anymore. They are now on a patrol model, not a campus-based model, which means that school police officers are not stationed on campus anymore. All they do is patrol around the campus, or campuses, because they have multiple campuses, right? And in 2020, the school board cut their budget by over $25 million. Pretty much, in essence, they eliminated the department, but they kept a handful of officers. Okay, so again, they're not permanently stationed on campuses, they just patrol the surrounding school area. Okay, that was in 2020. 35% reduction in the Los Angeles School Police Department. 35% reduction. That's a lot of officers that they lost. Okay. The focus really shifted from stationing armed officers, on campus in the hallways, things like that, to having them available for incidences that exceed the capacity of school staff. So right now, I think I mentioned to you guys that I teach at LA Valley College, and they have a dual enrollment program, so they allow high school kids to enroll in the college class. So I'm teaching a dual enrollment course at East Valley High School. Anybody from East Valley High School? It's a beautiful campus, by the way, but there are no cops. There's no cops on campus at all. Matter of fact, I've been there for about a month. Haven't seen one officer, not one. I haven't seen them patrolling the area either, by the way. Okay. So now all on-campus issues are handled by school staff, the principal, the dean, the counselors,